3,000 years ago, the galaxy had known chaos on a scale that today's humans could barely imagine. Civilizations clashed in endless wars, and entire worlds were reduced to dust in the span of a few years. Humans, still young compared to the ancient species around them, had been forced into hiding several times. They fought, retreated, learned, and survived. It was not victory that defined them, but endurance. And finally, after centuries of bloodshed, a peace agreement had been signed. The great powers of the galaxy, including humans, had come together to form a truce. This truce was meant to last, a fragile promise to avoid the mistakes of the past. It was called the 3,000-year truce, though no one imagined it would still matter centuries later. The humans at that time were vastly different from the humans of today. Their cities were smaller, their technology crude compared to the starfaring civilizations that surrounded them. Many alien species saw humans as primitive, curious creatures who barely understood the rules of the galaxy. And yet, even then, humans had a spark that others couldn't extinguish: creativity, adaptability, and a stubborn will to survive. These qualities, subtle and easily underestimated, became the foundation for everything humanity would later become. When the truce was signed, humans agreed to withdraw from galactic politics. They promised to avoid exploration beyond their own solar system unless specifically invited, and they were forbidden from creating fleets capable of threatening other worlds. In exchange, the alien civilizations promised non-interference. For a species that had seen so much death, the deal seemed fair. Humans, battered and wary, accepted it with relief. They had suffered losses no one else could fully understand, and they wanted time to rebuild. And so the centuries rolled on, and Earth became quiet again. Over time, the story of the truce became a legend. Children learned about the war, treaty, and the sacrifices made by those long gone, but it felt distant, like a story from another life. Humans focused on their own world, fixing the damage left by war, nurturing cities, rebuilding societies, and advancing technology in ways that weren't obvious to the rest of the galaxy. By the time 1,000 years had passed, humans were unrecognizable compared to the species that had signed the truce. They had mastered artificial intelligence, colonized hidden worlds, and learned to harness energy in ways that no alien civilization had predicted. Yet, humans kept these advances secret. They didn't broadcast their growth to the galaxy. They had learned a lesson from history. Visibility could attract danger. The aliens who had once fought them had no idea that humans were preparing quietly, improving steadily, and planning for a future where they could stand tall without fear. To outsiders, Earth seemed like a small, unimportant planet. To humans, it was the seed of everything they would one day become. Despite this calm, not all humans forgot the stories of old. Scholars, historians, and storytellers passed down tales of the great galactic conflict, of worlds destroyed, of civilizations that had risen and fallen. These stories weren't just entertainment, they were warnings. Humanity remembered what could happen when pride and fear ruled decisions. The truce was respected, not because humans were weak, but because they understood that patience could be more powerful than aggression. Patience, it turned out, could outlive the longest sword or the deadliest weapon in the alien councils. However, the perception of humans was very different. Most species assumed that Earth was a backwater planet, a quiet, unremarkable world that had not changed in centuries. The Council of Alien Civilizations, which oversaw galactic matters, had little interest in monitoring human activity. They believed that humans had grown soft, that their power had faded with time, and that any future threat would be minimal. To them, the 3,000-year truce was less a treaty and more a guarantee that humans would never rise to challenge them again. It was arrogance, plain and simple, and it would cost them dearly. Humans, of course, were aware of these assumptions. But they didn't act with arrogance. There was no grand display of power, no boastful signals sent across the void. Instead, humans focused on the subtle, the quiet, and the strategic. Entire colonies were established in distant star systems, hidden, from sensors carefully built to ensure self-sufficiency. Artificial intelligence fleets were developed, not for conquest, but for protection and exploration. Humans experimented with energy sources that would allow them to move silently through the galaxy. And all the while, they observed the stars, learning the habits of alien civilizations, studying their politics, their weaknesses, and their tendencies. Life on Earth continued, blending the ordinary with the extraordinary. Children played in fields while satellites monitored distant stars. Cities thrived, powered by technology that most humans barely understood themselves. Researchers explored space in secret, testing new drives and cloaking systems. Humanity's greatest strength was its ability to remain calm, to live as though nothing extraordinary was happening, while preparing for everything that could not. Then came the day when the silence broke. Not with a warning or a skirmish, but with a message that rippled across the galaxy. The Council of Alien Civilizations, operating from their central hub millions of light years away, declared that the truce had ended. Their statement accused humans of deceit, of secretly building technology and fleets beyond what the treaty allowed. They declared war. The message was formal, cold, and intended to intimidate. It was meant to provoke fear, chaos, and compliance. Humans, however, reacted strangely. There was no panic, no immediate scramble to hide or respond. In city streets and quiet homes, people went about their routines. Scholars read, engineers tinkered, families ate dinner. There were discussions, of course, debates about strategy and morality, but there was no fear. There was only awareness. The human species had been waiting for this moment, in a sense, for centuries. They had anticipated it not with anger or aggression, but with quiet confidence. The alien declaration was met not with war cries, but with a collective almost amused. Calmed out for the aliens. This calm was confusing. They had expected fear, trembling, perhaps even immediate surrender. Instead, they encountered what humans themselves had come to recognize as the most dangerous thing of all: composure. Humans did not act without thought. They did not panic. They had patience, intelligence, and foresight on their side. To the alien council, it seemed almost mocking, a challenge delivered without words. They did not yet understand that what they saw as calmness was actually readiness, the culmination of thousands of years of planning, growth, and survival. And so the stage was set. The 3,000-year truce, meant to be a memory of peace, had been forgotten by those who assumed it no longer mattered. But humans remembered, in ways both subtle and profound. The galaxy thought Earth was quiet, weak, and harmless. Humans had allowed that perception to exist because it was useful. They were not naive, nor were they reckless. They were ready, though the aliens did not yet realize it. The first part of the story ends not with a battle, not with destruction, but with the quiet hum of a world that had waited centuries in preparation. Humans went about their lives, blending ordinary routines with extraordinary potential. Children laughed, markets thrived, machines whirred in secret laboratories. And above all, humans watched the stars, knowing that the galaxy believed them harmless, and knowing, too, that this misconception was their greatest advantage. 3,000 years of truce had passed. Time had changed humans, not into conquerors, but into something far more dangerous, a species that could endure, adapt, and act with intelligence beyond recklessness. The galaxy, unaware of the depth of human patience and strategy, prepared to make a grave mistake. And humans, as they had done for centuries, simply smiled quietly at the stars. They were ready, but they were patient, and that patience, as it would soon become clear, was the foundation for the greatest turning point the galaxy had ever seen. The announcement came quietly, but it spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The Council of Alien Civilizations, the same body that had once enforced the 3,000-year truce, now declared that it had ended. Humans had, according to the Council, violated the treaty by secretly advancing their technology and reaching further into space than allowed. The declaration was meant to intimidate and provoke fear. The Council sent their message with authority, their warships already moving toward the solar system, expecting resistance, panic, or at least respect. But humans did not panic. Across Earth, people heard about the declaration through news networks, satellites, and private communications. Governments held emergency meetings, but the atmosphere was calm. There was a shared understanding that humans had prepared for this moment for centuries. While the Council believed it was making a bold move, humans saw it as predictable, almost expected. Humanity had learned to remain patient, to think several steps ahead, and to act deliberately rather than impulsively. In the cities, life continued as usual. Streets were busy with people walking, talking, and working. Scientists and labs reviewed their projects, engineers monitored their systems, and children played in parks, unaware of the galaxy-wide tension. On the surface, Earth looked peaceful, ordinary, and vulnerable. To the Council, that appearance was deceptive, but that was exactly what humans wanted. For generations, humanity had cultivated this calm exterior, knowing it was safer to remain. Underestimated, even in space, humans had quietly expanded. While the Council assumed humans had withdrawn entirely, colonies had been established in hidden systems far from prying eyes. Some were built inside asteroid belts, others on moons in distant solar systems. These colonies were not aggressive. They were self-sufficient, technologically advanced, and capable of defending themselves. Humans had developed small, invisible fleets of ships that could travel undetected and monitor alien movements. All of this had been done silently, intentionally, to keep humans a mystery to the galaxy. When the Council sent its declaration, expecting immediate fear or surrender, they found none. Humanity's response was, in fact, a quiet amusement. There was no public declaration of retaliation, no sudden mobilization of troops in visible fleets. There were only careful, deliberate actions behind the scenes. Humans began preparing communications, not with threats, but with clarity and precision. Every leader, scientist, and strategist understood the implications. The Council had underestimated them. The galaxy had assumed humans were weak, compliant, and naive. The humans' calm, almost casual reaction was a silent message. We are not afraid. For the aliens, this calm was confusing. They had expected humans to react with fear, desperation, or aggression. Instead, humans seemed almost indifferent to the declaration of war. Some alien leaders suggested immediate strikes, believing that hesitation was a sign of weakness. Others doubted the accuracy of their own intelligence. How could a species that seemed so ordinary, so unprepared, remain so composed in the face of a galaxy-wide threat? They could not see what humans had built in secret. They could not imagine the intelligence, patience, and resources humans had accumulated over centuries. Meanwhile, Earth's leaders convened quietly in secure locations. They analyzed the Council's message, the potential movements of alien fleets, and the strategic points humans had quietly established throughout space. No one was angry. No one was panicking. Instead, there was a shared confidence, a deep understanding that humanity had long been ready for a challenge like this. Years of preparation, patience, and careful observation had brought humans to this moment. The galaxy thought they were caught off guard. In truth, nothing could have been more predictable for humans. Humans also began reaching out to their hidden colonies. Communications were sent, instructions reviewed, and systems checked. Every hidden fleet and every distant settlement was reminded of its purpose: to observe, to protect, and to wait for the right moment to act. These colonies had grown over centuries into strong, self-sustaining communities. They had learned to live quietly, to avoid detection, and to adapt quickly. The Council believed humans had no presence beyond Earth. In reality, humans had created an unseen network of worlds, a shadow civilization that could not be easily destroyed. The Council's fleet began moving toward the solar system. Thousands of alien ships entered interstellar space, confident in their ability to intimidate and control. They had spent centuries as one of the dominant powers in the galaxy, used to being feared and obeyed. But as their scanners swept across the solar system, they found nothing threatening. There were no massive fleets waiting to intercept them, no visible planetary defenses, no weapons poised to fire. For a moment, the aliens were confused. They expected resistance, yet the humans seemed passive. They assumed that the calmness on Earth was weakness. Humans, however, were not idle. Behind the quiet surface, invisible systems were coming online. Satellites activated, sensor arrays scanned the incoming alien fleets, and eye systems began analyzing every possible strategy. Humans had developed technology that could disable enemy ships without destroying them. Their goal was not necessarily to cause destruction, but to demonstrate control, intelligence, and readiness. Every movement of the alien fleet was being observed and calculated, every possible outcome considered. Despite the looming threat, Earth's citizens lived their lives. People went to work, children went to school, and cities functioned normally. Some were aware of the Council's declaration, others not. Yet even those who knew did not act out of fear. There was a shared understanding, almost instinctive, that humanity had faced challenges before. Humans had survived plagues, wars, famines, and natural disasters. Facing the Council of alien civilizations was merely another test, one that humans had anticipated for centuries. The aliens did not understand this. They expected humans to panic, to scramble, or to surrender. Instead, humans coordinated their hidden resources silently. Artificial intelligence fleets moved to monitor alien movements. Sensor arrays picked up every detail of the incoming ships, feeding data to strategists who had long studied the galaxy. Hidden colonies prepared for potential evacuation or defense, all without alerting the Council. Humans were calm, patient, and ready. Their quiet composure became a weapon in itself, confusing and unnerving the alien commanders. Even the media played a role in this strange response. News outlets reported the Council's declaration, but focused on ordinary life on Earth. Instead of panic, broadcasts showed children playing, families dining, and cities thriving. The message was subtle, but powerful. Humans were not afraid. The galaxy could see calm on a planetary scale, a quiet confidence that was impossible to ignore. Humans were sending a signal without words. We are aware, we are ready, and we will respond on our terms. The first interactions between humans and the alien fleets were indirect but revealing. As the Council's warships approached Earth's, AI systems began subtle interference. Communications were jammed in ways that caused confusion, but not harm. Small, invisible pulses disrupted propulsion systems, making alien ships drift slightly off course. To the Council, it appeared as if humans were still unprepared, yet the truth was far more complex. Every move had been carefully planned, every response calculated. The aliens had underestimated humanity, and that would be their first mistake. Throughout this tension, humanity remained patient. Leaders, scientists, and strategists worked quietly, knowing that rash action could be disastrous. They understood that true power was not always shown in force, but in restraint, intelligence, and preparation. Humans had spent centuries building this capability. Now, the galaxy would begin to see that the species it thought weak and primitive was anything but. The Council, meanwhile, grew frustrated. They expected submission, fear, or at least visible preparation for battle. Instead, they encountered calm, order, and subtle defiance. They could not understand how a species that seemed ordinary could remain so composed. They were beginning to sense that humans were not just surviving, but thriving in ways they had never predicted. They had assumed the 3,000-year truce had left humans weak. They were wrong. By the time the alien fleets reached the outskirts of the solar system, humans had already activated the first layers of their hidden defenses. Not destructive weapons, but tools to disrupt, confuse, and control the battlefield without bloodshed. Every alien move was anticipated. Every risk had been considered. Humanity's calm demeanor, once mistaken for naivety, was now a carefully maintained advantage. The galaxy, which had assumed humans would panic or flee, was beginning to realize that they had misjudged the species entirely. In cities across Earth, people continued to live ordinary lives, unaware of the invisible preparations occurring in orbit and beyond. This was intentional. Humanity's strength lay not just in technology, but in perception. To appear calm, ordinary, and even vulnerable was a strategic choice. The Council had misread humans for millennia, and that mistake would shape the coming conflict. Humans had waited centuries for this moment, not with fear, but with preparation, intelligence, and a sense of quiet amusement at the predictable arrogance of others. And so, as the alien fleets approached, Earth remained calm. Citizens continued their routines, cities thrived, and children held. The first signs of the alien approach were subtle. Far beyond the reach of human eyes, massive fleets moved through space, crossing the void with an efficiency that only millennia of experience could produce. These were not exploratory ships. These were warships, designed for battle, designed to intimidate. The Council of Alien Civilizations had not come to negotiate. They had come to enforce what they believed was inevitable: humanity's submission. But even as they approached, humans did not panic. They watched, calculated, and waited. From the surface of Earth, life appeared ordinary. Cities thrived, markets bustled, and people went about their daily routines. There were no blackouts, no sirens, no alarms. It was as if the galaxy's greatest threat was a rumor, a distant story that had nothing to do with the lives of everyday people. But beneath this calm surface, humans were fully aware of what was coming. They had prepared silently, carefully, and deliberately for exactly this kind of situation. Centuries of planning had led to this precise moment. The alien fleets moved closer, expecting chaos, expecting fear. They had calculated that Earth's defenses were minimal. They expected humans to panic at the scale of their force. They had underestimated one simple truth: humans had been preparing for centuries without ever showing their hand. Earth was not defenseless. Humans had hidden fleets, advanced AI systems, and technology that the Council could not even imagine. And unlike the aliens, humans did not believe that power alone guaranteed victory. They relied on intelligence, planning, and patience. The first strike was supposed to be terrifying. Alien weapons were capable of destroying entire cities in moments. They had drilled for this, rehearsed the battle in simulations, and believed that Earth would crumble under the weight of their firepower. Yet, when the first weapons were fired, something unexpected happened. Systems jammed, weapons misfired, and communications within the alien fleet began to fail. Ships drifted slightly off course, as if invisible hands were guiding them away from their targets. The aliens were stunned. Their orders were precise, their calculations meticulous, yet none of it seemed to be working. On Earth, scientists and engineers monitored the situation with quiet intensity. They had anticipated the Council's first move and had prepared countermeasures. Long before the aliens even began their approach, hidden arrays of satellites activated, sending pulses that disrupted propulsion systems, scrambled communication networks, and created subtle interference that left the alien fleets confused. There was no panic, no mass mobilization on Earth. Instead, there was a sense of controlled precision. Humans had not rushed into battle. They had prepared the battlefield to favor them without anyone noticing. The alien commanders tried to understand what was happening. They scanned, recalibrated, and issued new orders. Still, systems failed. Communications cut out, engines faltered, and fleets drifted in ways that made no sense. To the Council, this was inexplicable. How could a species that had seemed so ordinary, so defenseless, disrupt their fleet without even appearing to fight? They had assumed humanity would scramble, hide, or surrender. Instead, humans had taken the initiative without firing a single visible shot. On Earth, civilians remained largely unaware. Children played, parents worked, and cities thrived. Only a few were aware of the unfolding events, mostly scientists, engineers, and government officials who had been part of the long-term preparations. They moved quietly, coordinating hidden defenses, monitoring alien movements, and making adjustments in real time. The calm of the world's surface masked the incredible activity happening above and beyond the planet, where invisible forces shaped the unfolding battle. This was the first moment the galaxy began to see a different kind of human strength. It was not brute force. It was not reckless aggression. It was intelligence, strategy, and patience. The Council had assumed that humans could only act visibly, only fight directly, only respond with emotion. They had forgotten that humans had evolved over thousands of years, learning to use subtlety as a weapon, patience as a shield, and planning as armor. The alien fleet continued to move toward the inner solar system. They attempted to fire again, adjusting their weapons, trying new angles, and increasing power. Once again, the results were not what they expected. The humans' AI systems intercepted, rerouted, and neutralized attacks in ways that caused no destruction, but rendered the strikes completely ineffective. Ships that should have been capable of overwhelming entire cities now floated helplessly, engines disabled, weapons offline. The aliens began to feel something they had not anticipated: confusion. Fear was beginning to creep in, subtle but undeniable. Even at this stage, humans did not attack. Their hidden fleets remained invisible, their forces held in reserve. This was deliberate. The goal was not destruction, but demonstration, to show that humans were not naive, that they were capable, and that they had prepared for exactly this scenario. Every move of the alien fleet was being countered, every action anticipated, and yet no human weapon had caused direct harm. The calm that humans maintained was itself a message. We are ready, but we act with purpose, not impulse. As alien ships struggled to regain control, humans began sending communications. Not threats, not anger, not declarations of war. Instead, a simple message appeared across alien communication channels, direct and impossible to ignore. Truce broken acknowledged. Retaliation deferred. Humor noted. The aliens did not understand at first. Humor? They had expected anger, fear, or submission. Instead, the humans seemed amused, almost casually observing the alien struggle. It was a small phrase, but it carried a weight that the Council had never anticipated. Humans were not afraid, and they had prepared for everything. The alien commanders debated their next move. Some called for immediate aggression, others for withdrawal, and some even suggested sending envoys to negotiate. Yet every decision was hindered by confusion. Their ships could not operate as intended. Their systems were failing. Every attempt to regain the upper hand only confirmed a terrifying truth. Humans had prepared for centuries, and the Council had walked blindly into a trap they did not even realize existed. Meanwhile, humans on Earth watched and waited. The calm was maintained not out of ignorance, but out of control. Citizens went about their lives, unaware of the invisible battle shaping the fate of the galaxy. Scientists monitored data streams, engineers adjusted hidden systems, and leaders coordinated strategies quietly. There was no panic, no chaos, and no rash action. Humans had long since learned that restraint, intelligence, and patience were more powerful than any weapon. As the hours passed, the alien fleet's frustration grew. They had come to assert dominance, expecting humans to crumble. Instead, they encountered preparation, anticipation, and a species that had studied them as much as they had studied humans. They were facing a force that was not visible, not obvious, and yet completely capable of controlling the outcome of the conflict. The Council realized, too late, that the galaxy had misjudged humans for centuries. And yet, the humans did not celebrate. There was no triumph, no gloating. This was not a battle to win in the moment. This was a long game, a demonstration of readiness and restraint. Every system, every hidden fleet, every AI-controlled mechanism was part of a carefully orchestrated response designed to protect humanity and demonstrate capability without unnecessary destruction. The calm on Earth masked the extraordinary intelligence, patience, and power that had been silently cultivated for centuries. By the time the alien fleet reached the inner solar system, it was clear that humans were not the naive species they had assumed. Ships that should have struck without resistance were neutralized. Systems that should have failed remained functional. Communications were disrupted and rerouted with precision. The aliens had expected chaos and fear. They encountered order, strategy, and calm intelligence. The first strike, meant to assert dominance, had instead revealed the depth of human preparation and the subtle power humans had cultivated over millennia. In homes across the planet, life continued as usual. People ate, slept, worked, and played. Children laughed and explored, unaware of the invisible war unfolding above them. Only a few knew the truth. Humans were ready. The galaxy had assumed weakness, but humans had turned patience, intelligence, and preparation into a shield stronger than any weapon. The Council's first strike, meant to intimidate and dominate, had failed completely, and humans had done it without shedding blood or causing panic. The aliens began to realize that this was not a normal response. They had assumed humans would react in predictable ways. Instead, humans had anticipated every move, prepared countermeasures, and maintained an appearance of calm. For the first time in centuries, the Council questioned their own assumptions. They had underestimated the very species they had once dismissed. And humans, quiet, patient, and prepared, had not yet even revealed their full strength. The first strike ended not with destruction, but with clarity. Humans were not naive, they were not defenseless, and they were not afraid. The galaxy, which had assumed that chaos and fear were inevitable, began to see something different. A species capable of intelligence, restraint, and preparation far beyond what anyone had imagined. The stage was set for the next phase, but humans remained calm, patient, and ready. While the alien fleet struggled near the solar system, Earth's calm surface gave no hint of what was really happening. Humans had not simply been preparing for defense. They had been quietly building something far greater, something the galaxy had never imagined. For centuries, hidden colonies had grown beyond the eyes of the Council. They were scattered across distant systems, tucked inside asteroid belts, orbiting moons of remote planets, or hidden within nebulae where alien sensors could not easily detect them. These colonies were thriving, not just surviving. Each one was self-sufficient, technologically advanced, and quietly connected to a network that spanned light years. The aliens assumed that humanity's power was limited to Earth, that any fleet beyond the planet would be small and ineffective. They were wrong. Across the hidden reaches of space, humans had created artificial worlds, massive stations, and fleets controlled by advanced artificial intelligence. These fleets were not meant to attack recklessly. They were designed to observe, to gather intelligence, and to respond with precision. Every ship, every system, every AI unit was part of a vast, hidden structure that humans had built patiently over centuries. The genius of humanity lay not just in technology, but in strategy. The Council believed strength had to be shown immediately through aggressive displays, overwhelming force, or fear. Humans thought differently. They believed in patience, in subtlety, and in preparation. They had watched the galaxy for generations, studying patterns of behavior, weaknesses, and tendencies. While the aliens focused on conquest and intimidation, humans focused on observation and careful construction. By the time the first strike came, humans were not just ready, they were in control. In the hidden colonies, life was thriving. People lived normal lives as much as possible, but they also contributed to the larger purpose. Engineers maintained systems that were invisible to the outside galaxy. Scientists developed technologies that could bend energy, travel faster, and communicate across vast distances instantly. Strategists coordinated movements in ways the Council could never anticipate. It was a silent empire, one that grew without the need for intimidation or visible displays of power. The aliens had assumed humanity's small size, and apparent simplicity meant weakness. They could not have been more wrong. Back on Earth, the calm was deliberate. Citizens carried on as though nothing extraordinary was happening. Children played. Markets were open, and ordinary life continued. Governments issued statements that reassured the public without causing panic. Yet behind this surface, humans were coordinating a response to the Council's aggression. Hidden systems activated, fleets moved into observation positions, and colonies prepared for any scenario. Humans did not act with haste. They acted with precision. Their calm was not ignorance. It was confidence rooted in centuries of preparation. The alien fleets continued to advance, expecting Earth to be their first battlefield. They assumed humans would react only defensively, and that any hidden forces could not be significant. But as they approached, they began to detect anomalies. Ships that should have been stationary moved silently across vast distances. Communications seemed to redirect themselves. Sensors picked up activity in regions that should have been empty. For the first time, the Council realized they were dealing with a species that had mastered subtlety, strategy, and intelligence far beyond what they had anticipated. The revelation of humanity's hidden empire began gradually. Alien scouts reported strange patterns of energy, movements that defied explanation, and systems that seemed impossible for a civilization they considered primitive. The Council tried to respond with brute force, sending more ships to investigate, more weapons to assert dominance. Yet every attempt failed. Humans had anticipated these moves, and their hidden forces were ready to counter any aggression without exposing themselves completely. Every strike the Council attempted was neutralized, not with violence, but with intelligence and technology designed to control outcomes. Humanity's approach was always measured. They did not seek to destroy the alien fleets immediately. Their goal was to demonstrate control, to show that they were not naive, and to correct centuries of misjudgment without unnecessary bloodshed. Artificial intelligence fleets moved into position, invisible to alien sensors, ready to disable ships if required. Hidden colonies transmitted intelligence to Earth, updating strategies in real time. Humans were calm, confident, and deliberate. The galaxy, which had assumed chaos and fear, began to see something entirely different. A species that had mastered patience and preparation. The hidden colonies were also remarkable for their adaptability. Each one had been designed to operate independently if needed, with local governance, resource management, and self-defense systems. Humans had learned from history that relying on a single point of failure could be disastrous. By spreading their presence across the galaxy, they ensured that no single attack could cripple their civilization. These colonies had grown quietly, unnoticed, while the galaxy assumed Earth was alone. The result was an empire that existed without arrogance, without domination, and without the need for immediate recognition. Even the technology humans had developed was subtle in its effectiveness. Energy systems could reroute power instantly. Fleets could move without detection. Sensors could mask presence, confuse scanners, and simulate false readings. Humans did not need to overwhelm with brute force. They could control outcomes without revealing themselves. The Council, used to direct displays of power, could not comprehend this. They were accustomed to civilizations that sought fear and recognition. Humans did not need either. They had prepared in silence, letting intelligence and foresight serve as their true strength. In Earth cities, ordinary life continued. Markets were open, schools operated, and people went about daily routines. Citizens were largely unaware of the hidden networks that spanned the galaxy. Only those involved in strategic planning or scientific development knew the full scope. Yet even ordinary people contributed indirectly. Every scientist, engineer, and worker was part of a society that valued intelligence, patience, and observation. The calm of daily life mirrored the calm in space, a deliberate choice to maintain normalcy while extraordinary capabilities operated quietly behind the scenes. The aliens struggled to understand what they were facing. They had expected humans to be frightened, disorganized, or reactive. Instead, humans were proactive, prepared, and intelligent. Hidden fleets moved into position. Colonies communicated with precision, and Earth remained calm. For the first time, the Council began to fear not the humans' weapons, but their intelligence, patience, and subtle control. Humans were not naive, weak, or impulsive. They were deliberate, strategic, and quietly powerful. As this revelation unfolded, the Council attempted to negotiate, hoping to regain some control over the situation. They offered messages, ultimatums, and demands. Yet humans did not react with panic or aggression. Instead, they responded with clarity and observation. Humans had long anticipated such communications and had systems ready to analyze and respond precisely. The message was always consistent. Humans were aware, prepared, and capable, but they would act deliberately. The galaxy had underestimated humanity for centuries, and this was the first time the truth became undeniable. The hidden empire demonstrated another unique strength: unity without coercion. Across vast distances, human colonies and fleets operated in coordination, not through fear or command, but through shared understanding and purpose. Each colony, each fleet, each system knew its role, its limits, and its capabilities. Communication. An observation allowed humans to act in harmony even when separated by light years. The aliens, who relied on strict hierarchies and forceful obedience, could not comprehend this. They assumed control required domination. Humans had shown that control could exist quietly through intelligence, preparation, and trust in one another. By the time the alien fleets reached the edge of the hidden colonies, the scale of human preparedness became evident. Systems that should have been vulnerable were protected. Fleets that should have been small and ineffective were capable of significant control. Sensors detected every movement, every energy fluctuation, every anomaly. Humans were not reacting blindly. They were anticipating, controlling, and shaping the battlefield even before the Council fully understood what was happening. This moment marked a turning point in perception. The galaxy, which had assumed humans were primitive and weak, began to realize that they had misjudged them completely. The hidden empire was not a threat out of aggression, but a demonstration of intelligence, patience, and capability. The Council had assumed that submission or fear would be immediate. Instead, humans had shown that preparation and subtlety could be far more powerful than weapons alone. Back on Earth, people continued with ordinary life, oblivious to the full scope of the Empire hidden across space. Yet even in their normal routines, the influence of this preparation was visible. Infrastructure, technology, and daily systems all reflected the intelligence and foresight of a species that had spent centuries learning, planning, and building. Humans had created an empire that could operate quietly, protect itself, and shape outcomes without chaos or destruction. The aliens finally began to comprehend that the moment had arrived. After centuries of preparation, centuries of silent observation and careful planning, humans were ready to reveal themselves fully to the galaxy. The alien fleets, once confident in their power and dominance, were now facing a reality they had never imagined. Humanity was not naive, not weak, and not reactive. Humans had grown quietly, patiently, and intelligently, building a network of colonies, fleets, and systems that spanned light years. Now, for the first time, the scale of their capabilities would be undeniable from Earth. The unveiling was subtle, but precise. Fleets that had been hidden for generations emerged from cloaking, not all at once, but in a coordinated strategic display. Ships of incredible size and design appeared where none were expected, moving with grace and speed that alien sensors could barely track. Their presence alone caused alien communications to falter, as systems that should have been secure were disrupted by invisible human networks. The Council's commanders struggled to regain control, realizing too late that humans had anticipated every move. The first fleets that emerged were not aggressive. Humans did not strike immediately. Their goal was not destruction, but demonstration. Every move sent a clear message. Humanity had grown beyond what the Council had expected. They were no longer a species to be dismissed or underestimated. The alien forces, once confident in their superiority, now faced ships that were faster, smarter, and more adaptable than anything they had encountered before. Every visible human vessel was accompanied by invisible support, AI fleets, sensor arrays, and systems designed to neutralize threats without harm. On Earth, people went about daily life, largely unaware of the scale of the events unfolding in space. Markets remained open, children played, and cities thrived. This calm was intentional. Humans had learned that power did not need to be flaunted recklessly. By maintaining ordinary life, they could project confidence and patience, showing that they were not afraid, that they had control, and that the galaxy's assumptions about them were wrong. Even as fleets emerged, life on the planet remained stable, reflecting the discipline, intelligence, and planning that defined humanity. Alien commanders tried to respond. They had entered what they believed would be an easy victory, a show of dominance. Now they faced fleets that could move unpredictably, counter strikes without detection, and manipulate space itself in subtle ways. Communications within their ranks became confused, systems malfunctioned, and morale began to falter. They had expected humans to scramble, hide, or surrender. Instead, humans acted with precision, intelligence, and strategy that the Council could not match. The humans' approach was deliberate. They did not fire weapons immediately. They did not issue threats or ultimatums. Instead, they positioned their fleets strategically, demonstrating control over space in ways that were visible and invisible at the same time. AI-controlled ships moved silently, blocking potential attack routes and ensuring that no alien ship could act without risk. Hidden colonies communicated rapidly, coordinating every action across light years. Every move was calculated, every risk anticipated. The galaxy had never seen a species so prepared, so calm, and so capable. The alien fleets, once confident, were beginning to realize their mistake. They had assumed that humans could only act visibly, that their strength was limited to brute force and direct confrontation. They had not accounted for centuries of hidden development, silent fleets, AI coordination, and the patient, intelligent strategies of a species that had been underestimated for generations. The Council struggled to comprehend what they were facing. Their warships, powerful and numerous, were being controlled and countered in ways that seemed almost impossible. Even now, humans maintained restraint. They could destroy alien fleets, disable warships, and control outcomes entirely. Yet they chose not to. This restraint was deliberate. Humanity's goal was not conquest or unnecessary destruction. It was to demonstrate capability, to assert that they would not be dominated again, and to show that intelligence, patience, and preparation could surpass aggression. Every move sent a message. Humans were aware, ready, and in control. The Council had misjudged them, and now they were. Seeing the truth, the alien fleets attempted to attack. They fired weapons, tried maneuvers, and attempted communications to assert control. Every action was anticipated and countered by humans. Weapons failed to hit targets, propulsion systems were subtly disrupted, and communications were rerouted to create confusion. No alien ship could gain an advantage. What was supposed to be a devastating first strike turned into a display of human strategy, intelligence, and silent dominance. The Council realized that the war they had declared was no longer theirs to control. Humanity had taken the initiative. Without firing a single shot directly at their forces, hidden colonies played a critical role in this response. Across distant star systems, ships moved into position, sensors activated, and AI-controlled fleets monitored every move of the alien forces. Humans had prepared for decades, even centuries, ensuring that every contingency was considered. The Council, which relied on assumptions and aggression, could not match this level of planning and coordination. Every action humans took was deliberate. Every movement part of a larger strategy. As humans revealed their full presence, the scale of the hidden empire became apparent. Massive stations, previously invisible, emerged from cloaking. Fleets that had been hidden in asteroid fields and remote systems moved into visible positions. The galaxy could see, for the first time, that humanity was not a minor species. They were a civilization capable of operating across vast distances, coordinating complex operations, and controlling outcomes without unnecessary violence. The hidden empire, silent for centuries, had now become undeniable. From the alien perspective, panic began to take hold. Ships that had once been confident now drifted as systems failed, weapons misfired, and communications faltered. The Council realized they had underestimated humans in every way. They had assumed visible strength was the only measure of power. They had assumed humans would act with fear or aggression. Instead, humans had revealed a type of power that relied on intelligence, strategy, and preparation, not force alone. The galaxy was witnessing a turning point. Humanity had become something far greater than anyone had expected. On Earth, people remained largely unaware of the unfolding events. Cities were calm, life continued, and the planet appeared ordinary. This normalcy was intentional. Humans had learned that true power often lies in perception. By maintaining calm, they reinforced the message that they were not afraid, that they had control, and that the galaxy's assumptions about them were Entirely wrong. Even in ordinary routines, humans projected confidence and patience, showing that they could endure, observe, and act with precision when necessary. The alien fleets, now aware of the true scale of human capabilities, hesitated. They had come, expecting dominance. They now faced a civilization that had anticipated every move, prepared countermeasures for every strike, and controlled outcomes invisibly. Humans had not yet attacked directly, but the Council realized that any engagement would be catastrophic. The balance of power had shifted in ways the aliens could not comprehend. Humanity had taken the initiative, not with aggression, but with intelligence, patience, and strategic brilliance. The humans' restraint continued to be a defining feature. They could destroy alien ships instantly if needed. They could disable entire fleets without harming civilians or causing unnecessary destruction. Yet they chose precision, intelligence, and control. Every movement demonstrated capability, discipline, and foresight. The message was clear. Humanity had grown beyond fear, beyond aggression, and beyond reactive action. They had prepared silently for centuries, and now the galaxy could finally see the truth dot as the hours passed. Alien commanders debated their next steps. Some suggested retreat, others negotiation, but none had the confidence to act. They realized that humans had not just defended Earth. They had demonstrated control over vast areas of space, coordinated fleets across distant systems, and maintained calm intelligence in the face of overwhelming aggression. The Council's declaration of war, meant to assert dominance, had become a demonstration of human mastery without destruction. The hidden empire continued to operate seamlessly. Colonies maintained contact, AI fleets moved to strategic positions, and Earth coordinated operations quietly. Humans had transformed patience and intelligence into power. They had not sought to dominate recklessly. Instead, they had created a system that allowed them to respond to threats with precision, control outcomes, and maintain peace when possible. The galaxy was witnessing a civilization that had learned the value of restraint, observation, and careful planning. Finally, humans made their first visible demonstration of force, but it was precise and non-lethal. Alien fleets experienced disruptions. Systems went offline, and communications faltered, all without a single civilian casualty or unnecessary destruction. The Council realized that humanity had not just grown strong, they had grown smarter. The balance of power had shifted entirely. Humans were no longer underestimated. They had returned fully, revealing their hidden empire, their intelligence, and their preparedness. By the end of this phase, the galaxy understood the truth. Humanity. The final phase of humanity's return to the galaxy began not with war, but with clarity. The alien fleets that had once approached the solar system with confidence now hovered, uncertain and hesitant. The Council of Alien Civilizations, accustomed to dominating weaker species, was confronted with a reality they had never imagined. Humans were neither weak nor naive. The hidden empire had revealed itself fully. Fleets moved with precision, and AI systems monitored every alien action. Humanity had taken the initiative, demonstrating power without unnecessary destruction, and intelligence without arrogance. On Earth, life continued as normal. Children played in parks, markets bustled, and cities thrived. People went about their daily routines, unaware of the immense strategy and control happening above their heads and across hidden colonies. This calm was intentional. Humanity had learned that the appearance of normalcy projected confidence and patience. The galaxy could see that humans were not panicked, not desperate, and not reactive. The message was clear. Humanity had control, and the Council's threats were no longer intimidating. The Council tried to regain authority. They sent emissaries, broadcasted warnings, and attempted intimidation, hoping that humans would respond with fear or aggression. Instead, humans responded with deliberate communication. Messages were sent across the galaxy, direct, calm, and precise. We have observed. We have prepared. Your declaration is noted. We act with intelligence, not impulse. The aliens did not understand at first. Humor, calmness, and clarity from a species they had underestimated seemed impossible. But humans had mastered control over their response, using patience as a weapon as powerful as any fleet or weapon system. The hidden colonies played a crucial role in this phase. Each one had been designed to operate independently, but coordinated across vast distances. When the Council tried to assert dominance, hidden fleets moved strategically. AI systems monitored alien maneuvers, and sensor arrays disrupted potential strikes without harm. Humanity's power was not displayed through destruction, but through the precision of control. Every alien action was anticipated, every possible outcome considered, and yet no unnecessary violence was inflicted. This was not only strategy, it was humanity's philosophy made tangible. Strength with restraint. The first direct engagement occurred, but it was unlike any war the galaxy had seen. Humans did not attack with weapons aimed to destroy. Instead, fleets used subtle interference, electromagnetic pulses, and eye coordination to neutralize alien systems. Propulsion failed, communications dropped, and fleets drifted helplessly, unable to respond effectively. From the alien perspective, it appeared as if an invisible force was guiding every human action. The Council realized too late that they were facing not just technology, but intelligence, patience, and foresight perfected over centuries. On Earth, humans coordinated these actions calmly. Scientists monitored energy readings, engineers adjusted systems silently, and strategists reviewed every movement of alien fleets. There was no panic, no chaos, and no rash action. Humanity had grown accustomed to solving problems through intelligence and preparation. They had survived natural disasters, wars, and plagues, and now they faced a threat from the stars with the same calm, measured approach. Their patience and control had become their greatest weapons. The alien fleets, now partially neutralized, attempted to retreat, negotiate, or regroup. But humans maintained dominance without aggression. Fleets moved to block potential exits, sensor arrays monitored every maneuver, and communication systems disrupted the aliens' attempts at coordination. A council realized they could no longer rely on fear or intimidation. Humans had demonstrated a mastery of strategy that went beyond what the galaxy had seen before. For the first time, the balance of power had shifted entirely. Even as humans asserted control, they maintained restraint. Cities on Earth were safe. Civilian lives across the solar system and hidden colonies remained protected. Humanity's approach was deliberate, demonstrate strength, ensure safety, and control the battlefield with intelligence. The message was unmistakable. Humans were capable of overwhelming force, but their power was measured, precise, and ethical. The galaxy witnessed a civilization that valued intelligence over impulse, patience over aggression, and strategy over chaos. The Council, struggling to regain composure, sent messages proposing truce, negotiation, and understanding. Humanity responded not with anger or revenge, but with clarity. We have survived, we have prepared, and we will act to protect ourselves. Aggression is unnecessary. Misjudgment is acknowledged. Peace is possible if respect is maintained. The aliens were forced to recognize a species they had long underestimated, a civilization that had turned patience and intelligence into an empire capable of shaping the galaxy without unnecessary violence. Hidden colonies began to communicate openly with each other and with Earth, consolidating positions, monitoring remaining alien fleets, and ensuring that any threat could be neutralized quickly. Humans had prepared for centuries, and now every system, every fleet, and every AI unit acted in perfect coordination. What the Council had expected to be chaos, confusion, or submission was instead calm, order, and intelligence that left no room for fear. The galaxy had begun to see humans not as weak or primitive, but as deliberate, capable, and powerful. Even alien communications, once filled with threats and arrogance, were now cautious. Their fleets hesitated, their commanders reconsidered, and morale faltered. Humans had demonstrated that power did not require aggression, that intelligence could control outcomes without destruction, and that preparation and patience could surpass brute force. The Council had learned far too late that humanity had not just survived, they had grown into a civilization capable of redefining the rules of engagement across the stars. The first visible acknowledgement of humanity's hidden empire came when fleets and stations revealed themselves to the galaxy. Ships emerged from cloaking. Massive stations that had been invisible for centuries became detectable, and sensor arrays lit up space in coordinated patterns. The galaxy finally saw the extent of human capability, a network of colonies, fleets, and systems that spanned light years, operating in perfect harmony. Humans had revealed themselves not to intimidate, but to show preparedness, intelligence, and control. The Council realized the full scope of their miscalculation. They had underestimated a species that had mastered patience, strategy, and subtlety. Humans had anticipated every strike, neutralized every maneuver, and maintained calm intelligence throughout. The aliens had expected chaos and panic. Instead, they encountered control, foresight, and restraint. Humanity had not just survived the declaration of war, they had mastered the battlefield without unnecessary destruction, demonstrating power in a way the galaxy had never seen. On Earth, celebrations were quiet. There was no public fanfare, no chaos, only the quiet satisfaction of people who had endured and prepared. Citizens went about their routines, unaware of the strategic brilliance unfolding above them. Scientists, engineers, and leaders observed data streams, adjusted systems, and confirmed that every alien threat had been neutralized or contained. Humanity had returned fully, not with aggression or arrogance, but with intelligence, patience, and mastery. The final message to the Council was deliberate and clear. Humans would no longer tolerate misjudgment or threats, but they valued restraint, intelligence, and cooperation. Aggression would not go unchallenged, but violence was not the first choice. The aliens, for the first time, understood that humanity had evolved beyond fear, beyond submission, and beyond impulsive reaction. They faced a species that had mastered preparation, patience, and strategic brilliance over centuries. As the alien fleets retreated or hesitated, the hidden empire continued to operate seamlessly. Colonies communicated, fleets moved in synchronization, and AI systems monitored every potential threat. Humanity had shown the galaxy that power could exist quietly, intelligently, and ethically. No unnecessary destruction had occurred, yet control had been absolute. The galaxy now understood a truth long ignored. Humans were deliberate, capable, and quietly dominant when needed. By the end of the phase, the Council had little choice but to acknowledge humanity's supremacy. Their declaration of war had failed, not because humans were aggressive, but because they had prepared, observed, and acted with intelligence and precision. Humanity had returned fully, demonstrating that true power lies not in chaos or aggression, but in patience, strategy, and mastery over circumstance. The 3,000-year truce may have been broken, but humans had responded in a way that reshaped the galaxy's understanding of them forever. The hidden empire now openly coordinated with Earth, reinforcing the idea that humanity was no longer isolated, vulnerable, or underestimated. Colonies, fleets, and AI systems operated as one, demonstrating cohesion, intelligence, and readiness. Every action reinforced the message. Humans had returned fully, with mastery over space, strategy, and the future. The galaxy had been warmed, not with fear, but with clarity, intelligence, and undeniable power. Finally, the message that resonated across the galaxy was simple. Humans are here, prepared and capable. Misjudgment will no longer be tolerated. Strength is measured not only by weapons, but by intelligence, patience, and restraint. The Council,